I'm this very ambitious, driven, going to the gym type of guy. I just stuck with it because the feeling of admitting that I was wrong or that I wasn't good enough was so painful that I didn't have any other choice. And there were many times over those 2 years, probably 5 times I can remember, where I was going to quit. And then right when that moment came, I just didn't. And I just kept going.
Tanner Chidester, a powerhouse entrepreneur who's not only dominated the online coaching world, but has also amassed over $100 million in revenue. The founder of Elite CEOs and Fit Warrior LLC and much, much more. The market is, I don't want to say saturated, but extremely competitive. What sets you apart?
I think the biggest thing is
Welcome back, Alpha Squad. Today we have a powerhouse entrepreneur who's not only dominated the online coaching world, but has also amassed over $100 million in revenue. Tanner Chidester, the founder of Elite CEOs and Fit Warrior LLC and much, much more. So grab your notebooks and get ready to learn from the best as we dive into the mind of a true alpha in the business world. Please give a warm welcome to Tanner Chidester. Tanner, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Tanner, we have a very standard question that we ask all our alpha guests, which is once we publish the episode, people will see the thumbnail, they will see the title and the graphics and you on the thumbnail, and they will think it is extremely interesting episode. So what can you promise them today to gain if they gave us their time?
I like to usually go into the strategies of what it took to get to 100 million in sales. So whether it's the mindset, the sales, the marketing, the fulfillment, something that always frustrated me when I would read books is it would give a very big overview, but it wouldn't give anything tactical. And so I always try to give very tactical advice.
True, we'll love to hear that from you, and I'm sure my audience will love to hear that from you. Tanner, in a very quick nutshell, if I ask you who's Tanner, so what can you describe about yourself to my audience? Whatever comes to your head.
Tanner is someone who I believe I can do anything, but I think I have a deep insecurity or fear that I'm not good enough. And I think that's part of what drove me to be successful.
I love that. Tanner, you have a very interesting story and journey as well. You've born in a big family, I believe of 9, right? Mm-hmm. You've been a shy person. You've been bullied. But now you're a totally different person, successful entrepreneur, a well-built man. So can you take us through this journey so people can understand?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in a very conservative religious household. My father was equivalent of a pastor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And then, there were 6 other kids. So 3 boys, including me, 4 girls. I was the oldest boy and I just was very sheltered growing up. And because of that, I think I got picked on a lot at school. And I think around the age of 12, I really started to pick up on that. And that's what got me into fitness, because I told my parents, I said, hey, these kids are messing with me. I want to go start lifting weights. And my thought process was I would beat them up. But what ended up happening is after 3 months of kind of that consistency, they started giving me respect. And all of a sudden I go, oh my gosh, if I work hard, then good things will happen. And so I started really taking that with sports and dating and grades. And I did really well and I excelled. And from there, because I did so well in sports, I really started to try to go the NFL and American football. I got all the way to the Division I level and got hurt multiple times. Probably wasn't good enough either. Even if I had gotten drafted, I don't think I would have stayed in the league very long. 3 years is the average, and it's just hard on your body. So at that point, I met a mentor who was a friend of my father's, and he actually convinced me to drop out of school because once football was over, I didn't really want to be there. I didn't want to be an engineer.
That's a big decision, like dropping out of school, dropping out of university. Yeah. How was your family feedback? You said like you're coming from a conservative family. Oh my God, leaving school is something. A quick note, I find this incredibly intriguing. On the back end of our YouTube channel, it says around 75% of you who watch this channel frequently over the lifetime of this channel haven't yet hit the subscribe button. I just wanted to ask you for a favor. It helps this channel so much if you choose to just subscribe. It helps us invite guests that give you great value. It helps us scale the production and as well makes this show bigger and bigger for you. And if you enjoyed the previous episodes and you're currently enjoying this episode, could you please hit the subscribe button? I love your support. It's incredible to see all your comments and engagement. And we are just starting. Thank you so much, and I will repay this gesture by making sure that everything we do on this show makes it bigger, and better. I'm committed to do this promise. Do we have a deal? Thank you so much for subscribing. it means the world to me.
They didn't straight up say I couldn't do it, but they definitely weren't supportive and they were all obviously very worried. My girlfriend at the time split up with me because of it. I remember having doubts because I didn't know
Yeah,
anything about business. No one in my family had ever been in business. And so I had a year left of engineering school. And my mentor at the time, he said, "Hey, drop out and do this." And when I asked him, I said, "Why wouldn't I just finish?" And what he said actually makes tons of sense. And I'll tell this to younger guys is he says,
yeah,
if you finish and you meet a girl and you're making 100 grand a year, it's way riskier for you to stop that to start a business. You'll never do it. He says, right now you have nothing to lose. This is the best time in
true.
your life to do it. And that actually is what pushed me over the edge. And over the next few years, he started teaching me about funnels and opt-in pages. And he's actually related. One of I think he's married to one of Russell Brunson's cousins, and that's
Ah,
kind of the
okay. Mm-hmm.
click funnels. And so I started learning all these things, but I'm not making any money. And I was trying to sell a $47 fitness program. I called it the Rapid Muscle System.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really understand how to market and I didn't really understand how to sell. So after about a year and a half of failing, I went and took a door to door sales job thinking that the reason I was failing is I didn't have money. And I thought, well, if I had money, I could run ads. If I could run ads, then I'd be successful. But there's multiple things wrong. Long story
True.
short, I do about 9 months of door to door sales, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. It usually would be 2 hours you drive to a small city or town, you knock for about 8 hours, and then you drive back. And I did that for 9 months. So no girls, nothing. I mean, it
No
was not
life.
very,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
life.
true.
And when I got to the end of that, I was going to start doing it year round because I just didn't know what else to do, but it didn't really turn into the money I thought. They way overpromised, and I was a good rep for the company. I was one of the top reps, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't anywhere near the money they had promised. And that's when I saw an ad on Facebook that said how to start an online fitness business. So I
Mm-hmm.
click on it. I knew nothing about the high ticket space or online coaching world. I get on the call, very high pressure call. Didn't even really know what they were
Now,
doing.
now, now, huh?
Yeah, like if you come back later, it's going to be more, but if you do it now, it's
Yeah.
going to be this. And so I only had about $2,000 in my bank account. I gave him pretty much all of it. And then I went and applied for a credit card. And then a few days later, I paid the rest of the balance, which was 5,000. I got in the program and it kind of felt like a lot of fluff, or maybe I just felt that way because I was so frustrated. And I just said, look, I don't want to watch these videos. Just tell me what to do. And they said, all right, you start reaching out to people on your social, get them on a phone call, sell it for $1,500 plus. And in my head, I'm thinking, there's no way it's this easy, and there's no way they're going to spend that much money. But I already spent 5 grand, so it was like do or die.
Mm-hmm.
In that first week, I made 10,000, which was 3 times what I was making in a month. I called my parents and I convinced them to let me come back home. And I said, hey, I'll pay you guys about $1,000 of rent. But what that would do is it gave me a little surplus to put into the business. And from there, I just started rolling. I got up to about $50,000 a month organically. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized it wasn't a long term strategy because I'm just messaging all the time. And I knew I needed to
So
figure out ads.
you were using DMs to connect with people right away, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would send, a minimum 100, 200 DMs a day. I actually started getting arthritis in my thumbs
No
and my
way. Ah.
fingers where I would type because I would do it so much. The doctors were like, "What are you doing? You look like you have
Phew.
old man fingers." But I was just hustling.
100, 200 DMs a day.
Yeah, plus the combos. So that was probably
Mm-hmm.
just new conversations. I mean, that's not even the back and forth.
True.
So I saw that was running out, and I realized I needed to take the cash I was making and invest into learning paid traffic. So invested in a second coach, didn't work. Third coach, didn't work. Fourth coach, didn't work. Fifth coach. And finally, on the fifth coach, I'm getting very frustrated because I'm working
You paid a
extremely hard.
lot and paid a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
money and not getting the result. Can you stress on this, because a lot of people put a lot of money in coaching and mentorship and they don't see an immediate result.
Yeah, so I thought that I had a skewed way of looking at coaching or personal development. I thought that if I paid someone, then I should get exactly the result. But the problem is it's an unregulated industry, which means 80% will be bad, 20% is good. But that doesn't mean
True.
don't look for the 20%. It's very similar to dating. Guys
Mm-hmm.
will complain about women, but you only have to marry one. We're only looking
True.
for one, 10.
Correct.
So as I did it, I would get frustrated, but I knew I didn't know what I needed to know. And the only way forward was to get the information. And what a lot of people do is they'll sit in one spot for years and they never move forward because they won't take that leap. So for me, it was frustrating because I felt all this money I was making would go to a coach and then it wouldn't work. And then I do it again. It was about 10,000 a pop. So by the time I'm at this fifth coach, I'm $50,000 deep with coaching and I'm probably
Mm-hmm.
25K in ads. And my dad starts going, I mean,
Nuts.
Tanner,
What's
why don't you
happening? Yeah.
why don't you just keep the money and you'll be fine? So I get to this fifth coach and I remember getting upset. And I guess I was becoming a problem client, where they're like, this guy is a complainer, XYZ. So he calls me and I don't really remember the entire conversation, but I do
Yeah.
remember that he was a little upset. And he said, look, I was just at dinner. I stepped away to take this call. And he said, there's really only two things. You can either stop crying and do the work, or I'm going to give you a refund. And I'm a very, I guess, aggressive type A guy. And so
Mm-hmm.
when he challenged me in my head, I'm thinking, F you, like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is I was running ads and I guess I was just crossing my fingers hoping people would take an action. But at the time, this was 2017. That's when ManyChat came out. And for people who don't know what ManyChat is, it was just an activator for DM messages. So DM messages are
Yeah.
very normal today, but 6, 7 years ago, that's how you would get it done. And so I went back in and I just said, you know what? I'm going to message every single lead I've gotten from ads. And
Mm-hmm.
once I that, I collected about $30,000 off $3,000 of ad spend. I said, "Oh shit!" Like I just
Wow.
figured this out.
So that's a
And then,
breakthrough thing, right? That's a breakthrough moment you had.
100%. Yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
multiple breakthrough moments. I think, football not working out, meeting my mentor, going door to door sales, dropping out of school. I mean, obviously, but this was the moment I knew I was going to be rich. I just
Mm-hmm.
knew because I said, if I just keep doing this, I'll keep spitting out cash. And so I doubled down on that. And then that year, once I doubled down, I did $1 million that year. I got my first, two Common Club award. That
Yeah.
actually helped me more than people think. I don't know how much they help today, but at that time, a lot of people really resonated with those awards and they looked at me and said, man, that guy did it without business consulting. That guy built a fitness business. So it gave me this extra credibility that I felt other business owners didn't have. And so what
True.
happened is I had all these trainers start coming to me. They're like, dude, I heard you're the man and online. Like, can you help me? And at first I was really hesitant because those 5 coaches I paid left a bad taste in my mouth. And to be
Mm-hmm.
frank, 50, the thing I've learned with coaching is it's never all going to work, but you'll learn things not to do. And, people go to
Mm-hmm.
school and drop 200 grand. And to be frank, that was my college education, 50,000. That's what I spent on. That would have been
True.
college education. And so I think people just sometimes they get so caught up in, oh, I spent this money, I should get this result. But it just doesn't work that way all the
And
time.
it stops
Sometimes,
them.
yeah, sometimes you'll make the wrong choice. Sometimes it's not the right decision. You don't really know, but I just knew I had to keep going. So once I did that, I had this huge list of trainers. I started running a business I called Fitness CEOs, which actually merged into Elite CEOs, which it is now. We did 10 million that year. So that was the craziest year of my
Wow.
life. I think 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I just worked foot to the metal. Um, and then the next year, I had other people start asking, and then that's how Elite CEOs came about, and that's been the main company I've been running for the last 6 years.
We'll
So
dig into your companies now, but I want to circle back because your journey is very interesting from a student to an athlete to a successful entrepreneur. These are all mindset shifts. Can you tell us about this? Like you wanted to be a student, then you became an athlete, then you said like, okay, it's done. Let's go to become an entrepreneur. That's an absolute. You're pivoting, and changing your mindset. Can you tell me about your mindset a little?
yeah, as an athlete, what got me into sports was really the bullying. So those kids who bullied
Mm-hmm.
me actually did me a big favor because what it did, for better or worse, is it reinforced that hard work will give me great results. And so at a very young age, that principle of hard work and effort and determination was really instilled in me. I also have a
Yeah.
father who I didn't realize at the time, but is one of the hardest working people I know. And so
Mm-hmm.
seeing that also reinforced it in me. And I didn't notice till later in life that most people don't work that hard. I just grew up seeing that. So that was number one, is just the bullying. Then once I succeeded at sports, I just realized it's the same thing in every other endeavor. You just put in the work. So I started studying
True.
more. I went to study halls. I took, AP classes. I went to tutor sessions. I just viewed it the same way. I said, most of these kids don't get A's because they don't do the extra credit or tutor class. I just did everything I was supposed to do. Once it got to being an entrepreneur, I don't know if I really had the belief I could do it, but what I did know is that I didn't have a lot of money. And so my dream in the NFL was gone. And so I had two paths. It was either be an engineer for 60
Mm-hmm.
years or whatever, and maybe like it, maybe not, make okay money, or step over here and have no idea if it's going to work, but have the chance to become who I wanted to become. And so it wasn't an easy decision, but the decision was clear for me. And then as I started building the business, it for 2 years I didn't have any success. And hearing that on the podcast, people go, "Ah, 2 years, who cares?" But when you're
Mm-hmm.
in 2 years and every day you're waking up by yourself, you're in a small apartment, you feel discouraged, your family's telling you should quit, your friends are telling you should quit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm living in places I shouldn't be living in to keep costs down. So some people party life, drugs, whatever. And I'm this
True.
very ambitious, driven, going to the gym type of guy. I just I just stuck with it because the feeling of admitting that I was wrong or that I wasn't good enough was so painful that I didn't have any other choice. And there were many times over those 2 years, probably 5 times I can remember, where I was going to quit. And then right when that moment came, I just didn't. And I just kept going. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I have a lot of empathy for people. And I think that's actually what got me into business consulting, because I've seen people in tough places. And because I was there, and because I know that I think I'm a mentally strong person and I almost quit, then I know the average person is thinking about that probably 10 times more.
10
And
times. True.
yeah, I never thought I'd get into business consulting. Even to this day, it's still difficult because sometimes the connotation is, oh, it's scammy or this or that. But to be frank with you, when I see people who tell me I'm living out of my car or I can't see my child because I can't afford to have them live with me, I just feel that I can't do nothing. And that's actually why I built this company. And to be frank, because I don't need the money anymore, it's like those
Totally
stories, it
understand.
resonates with me because I was there. And that's why I try to help people as best I can.
Totally understand. Let's circle back to your first thing when you did from 0 to 1 mil in 12 months.
Yeah.
And of course, that was a tremendous success. What were the key strategies or the tactics that, if you look back, these were the things that made this happen?
Yeah, the first was just unrelenting work ethic. I would wake up between 5 or 6 a.m. max, and minus maybe an hour of gym. Some days I wouldn't even go because
Mhm.
I was willing to sacrifice my health for that short term, for better or worse, because I looked at the gym. I said, man, if I spend 2 or 3 hours in the gym, which is what I enjoy, I love the gym,
Yeah.
I am giving up X amount of dollars. And so, besides that, maybe an hour a day, most days I didn't even go. I'd say maybe 3, 4 days a week max, if that. I would just message prospects, get on sales calls, and do fulfillment all day.
Tanner,
And
these were all by yourself, like from 0 to
mostly,
1 M.
yeah, up to about 50,000 a month. The only employee I had was a coach. And
Uh-huh.
then once I got there and I learned ads, the process I did to get to million is we just started cranking ads, and then I hired two setters and I had one
Mhm.
sales guy, and that was it. And so a lot of times too, I think it's good for the audience to hear people, what's the difference between 100,000 a month and 1 million? And to be frank, it's really just doing more of the same stuff and more people. That's it. It's not
Exactly.
more complexity. You're doing the same things at a faster rate. And a lot of people think it's 26 different funnels and emails and all this stuff. But in reality, the simplest business is the easiest to scale, because as you scale, it gets more complex by nature because it's a bigger organism.
True, bigger volume. Tanner, a lot of people in the online coaching sphere, a lot. The market is extremely, I don't want to say saturated, but extremely competitive. What sets you apart?
I think the biggest things are follow up systems. So it's funny you say that, but every big competitor we've had since I started 6 years ago is either out of business, sold, started something else. They're all gone, all
Interesting.
of them. The big ones. And when I say big, usually let's just say 1 million plus a month, right?
Hmm.
And I think the reason for that is what I've seen over the 6 years is that a beginner won't know is that markets change, people change. And so right now, what's happened is it went from pretty high trust, especially through COVID. COVID was a gold mine for online because
True,
everyone had
true.
online. And what's happened is trust has started to go down. And so what I've seen that's really kept us relevant and helped us stay in the game is our follow-up systems are so good. We just text everyone, we call everyone, we email everyone. And a lot of people, what they're hoping is they just want an easy business. They just want the business where they put in money, they sit back, and it comes out the other side. And to be frank, it just doesn't really work that way. And
Work this
so
way, yeah.
I think we're just willing, when I say we, my team, we're just willing to do things that other companies aren't. And so we win, not because we're even necessarily better, but we're more persistent. We're like that, nagging fly that just won't go away when everyone else has this maybe sexier process, but they're
Hmm.
not following up. And all I can tell you is that when you give personal attention to people and you scale what's considered unscalable things, it just sets you apart from the competition just by that. And I would agree, the market is extremely saturated right now. It's
True,
it's
true.
just everyone and their mother is a coach.
Then let's go to your business now. What you actually do. Let's put it this way.
When clients come in, depending at the level they're at,
Hmm.
a beginner, we're going to start at the very beginning. So help them with an offer, help them with organic strategies, maybe start doing boosted posts, move into
Hmm.
ads, their first hires. If someone's more advanced, it's usually bringing them in and teaching them leadership, hiring, training, firing, developing talent. The biggest bottleneck for beginners is they
Yeah.
just don't know how to make sales. And so they're not good at speaking, communicating, etc. Let's say anyone from 100K plus, they're usually not a good leader. They're not a good manager. They don't know how to delegate. They don't know how to hire and train. And it sounds simple, but there's just a lot of nuance to everything in life. And so over the years, even me building big teams, my team is 70 people now. It used to be
Yeah.
100. You just learn there's so much that goes into managing people and emotions and SOPs and really
True.
understanding how to interview properly. And so those would be the two biggest bottlenecks. And I'd say those are the two biggest things we focus on with clients.
Let's say a new entrepreneur or online coach approach you, so it's completely new. What kind of process you take them through so they understand? Like, and let's say to just give them a rough understanding, what is the ticket price? Like, how does it look overall?
Sure. So if someone came in from scratch, what I usually want them to do is they're going to pick something they can sell in the service niche, right? So health,
Mm-hmm.
wealth, relationships. So get in better shape, make more money. And then the other one would be dating, sex, marriage, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason for that is everyone wants it. The offers as a caveat that struggle the most are usually mindset offers, not because they're bad, but because they're not tangible. So people will see
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins and say, well, I want to sell what Tony's selling, but they don't have the brand Tony has. And there's
True.
not nothing tangible. So whatever they sell, the big thing is it's tangible. So fitness, you will lose 20 pounds. Business, you will make 10K. Relationships, you will have more sex. Whatever it is, it has to be
True.
tangible, something that they can understand and touch. So that's number one. Once we get that, then it's helping them break the offer. And to be frank, the best breakdown of this is just $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy.
Mm-hmm.
Just four quadrants. Do they want what you're selling? What's the risk? How much time will it take? And then the effort and making that as sexy as possible. Once they have that, we can take it to market. And so let's say they come in a program, and this is how people should think. If you hire a coach, let's say you invest 5 or 10 grand, you come in, you build that out, you make your first initial sales, and you could sell anywhere. I've seen price points from 1,500 typically to 25,000 and up, right? But usually I'd
Mm-hmm.
say on average, most people are selling between, let's say a B2C offer. So it's not financial ROI,
Yeah.
1,500, 5 grand. And then I'd say financial ROI is 5 grand to like 15 grand on average, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So once they get their initial sales, and what we would do is teach them different ways. I have stuff I call 5 guys and 2 steps, and there's different strategies. They get that initial bulk of cash. Once they
Mm-hmm.
get that cash, I'd have them use it in boosted posts. And so if you go on Instagram or Facebook, you can click in the bottom right hand corner, there's a button, it'll say boost. You'll boost that. And so what happens as you boost it, more people come to your profile where you can start those conversations and turn into more sales. Once you've
Mm-hmm.
done that, you have more cash, then we really crank the gas. We put it in the ads manager so we can spend more, right? It's just more efficient. And you got to remember, you can only DM so many people. So DMing
True.
only works with small companies. After a certain point, you'll get blocked with spam. So you can't do that forever. So once you get, I'd say 25 to 50K a month max, you usually have to move to the ads manager. And then we rinse and repeat that process and then build a team around it. And the only way around that I've seen that consistently works is a big organic following. So if you're Iman Godzi, if you're Alex Hermosi now, he wasn't always like that. Maybe
Hmm.
Russell Brunson, even though he still runs ads, you can do a post, Kim Kardashian, they
True.
can do a post and Kim Kardashian could have a bag of her fingernails and sell it, no problem. But for the average person who is not famous or not well known, the only way to get more people to find out about you is paid marketing. So I'm a big proponent of paid ads because most clients who come to me, they don't have a lot for me to work with. So I can't say, well, let's make this guy famous. Maybe they're not good
Hmm.
on video.
True.
They sound a little strange. And so I have to try to give someone the most simplistic, straightforward approach to be successful. So that's kind of A to Z. I can get into more specifics,
Yeah.
but that's
No, no, it's fine.
usually.
What is the ticket for this? Like, if somebody wants to engage with you, what is kind of the ticket or the cost that they have to put up front?
Yeah, so if they're working with us, we have stuff that's range on average, right? So between
Yeah.
1,000 to 16,000. The closer to 16,000, the higher level it is, more one-to-one support and attention.
Yeah.
The closer to 1,000, it's more, I'd say, groupish, or it's a shorter time frame. So for example, instead of, if the 16,000 was 4 months, if they only put down 3,000, they might get one-to-one, but it's only for 30 days or 60 days instead of 4 months, right? Stuff like that. So the amount of money is either usually how much attention or how much time or a mixture. That's the difference.
Hmm. Tanner, can you tell us a success case that you have? Like, a client came to you, kind of rock bottom, paid you the 1 to 16, whatever in between, and then
Yeah.
bam.
Yeah. There's a bunch at elitecos.com, and I actually think that's one of the reasons people trust us is we just have so many testimonials. The
Yeah.
videos too, not just the screenshot stuff. It like
Hmm.
But one that stands out to me the most was a guy who came to me named, I won't say his name. Let's just say his name
Yeah.
was Alex.
Hmm.
But I actually took this sales call because my team was a little sick, et cetera. And I don't really take sales calls at all anymore, but I took this one. And I remember getting on the call, and he's from Indian descent and just very analytical, not very trusting. And I remember telling him, saying, to be frank, I don't think you should do this because I don't think you'll succeed. And the reason I felt that way is it was clear to me his communication was a little difficult. He didn't have a lot of sales experience. And so in my head, I'm thinking you're going to struggle because if you're not good at sales, you won't make any money. Long story short, because I told him not to sign up, he wanted to sign up even more.
Hmm.
He comes in and he has a very unique offer, and he's already done, I want to say in a year, he did 1.5 million or so. And this was a guy I told not to come in.
True.
That's probably one of the stories I'm the most proud of, just because I told him, I said, look, you can pay us, but I don't think you'll be successful. And this is why. And the fact that he still did it and came in and actually became one of our best clients in terms of how fast he made revenue. I mean, how can you not root for the guy? And
True.
there were things he also said behind the scenes that he just said stuff, about he wasn't sure he wanted to live anymore and XYZ at home. And so that's
Wow.
the stuff
Hmm.
that really matters, because I think at a high level, what happens to me sometimes is I get so far out from the business because I have such a big team, that I forget that these people who are paying us money every day they're people. They have real problems. And so whenever I hear stories like that, it really helps pull me back in and really helps me navigate the space better, because sometimes when you get big enough, all you see is numbers and you
Hmm.
just SOPs, and you're like, don't do this, do that. And you forget it's people. So that's what I'm extremely proud of. And what makes it better is he's so grateful to us, but
True.
I've
The
told him,
fulfillment that you have, the fulfillment that you get.
yeah, but it's all him. And something that I've always told coaches, I said, if you're going to own all your client success, you have to own all their losses. And so something that I don't
Hmm.
want to own is I don't want to be the reason someone didn't succeed. So every time I have a client like him, they'll say, thank you. I said, dude, it's all you. We didn't do anything.
Hmm.
All we did is we gave you the info. You did all the work. We didn't do any of the work. And I think that's the best way to do it, because I see a lot of coaches who want to take all the success, but they don't want to take any of the failures. And you have to do both, or you got to do none. And so I just try not to own any of it. I really try to give it back to them. And that helps me at least have a little bit more peace, because if not, you have to own both. It can't be one or the
True. You
other. It
can
has to be
pick.
both.
True.
Yeah.
Tanner, if I ask you what role did failure play in shaping your business approach, what will you tell me?
As a young kid getting bullied, that was tough. I didn't understand why people were rude to me for no reason. It really kind of hardened me. Going through football and sports really helped me because of the competitiveness and the discipline and the dedication and obstacles. When that ended, that was tough. But then I did door to door sales. That was probably door to door sales was probably the hardest thing I've ever done to date. That was harder than building the business I have. People won't
Really?
believe that. Yeah, they
Uh,
won't believe that. But that was mentally the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Not physically, but
mhm.
mentally, it just batters you because 100 times a day, people are telling you to
Smashing
leave,
you.
cussing at you,
Mhm.
lying to you. Why are you here? F you. It's
Mhm.
just taxing on your mindset. So I guess what I'm trying to say is with I think Alex said this. He's one of my good friends, and he just
Mhm.
said, I was having a tough day, and he just said, we all want extraordinary lives, but we complain about the difficult things we have to do. And that's so true because the whole reason things in life are worth it is because they're hard. And if it was easy, then
It's not
it
worth it.
might be fun, but it won't ever be worth it because if it's easy, it means anyone can do it. And so I think for me, going through failure, I realize is a prerequisite to being successful. It must happen. You cannot get around it. And once that clicked in my head, once I had those 5 coaches and I was doing door to door sales and I made that, the ads worked and I made 30 grand off 3,000 of ad spend, I just sat there and went, oh shit,
Shit, it
that's why
works.
all this happened. It was
Mhm.
supposed to happen. And I thought I was this stupid idiot that couldn't figure stuff out. So I think what I'm just trying to say for anyone listening, if you're failing, you're on the right path. It means you're trying. It means you're trying to do something difficult. And I can't tell you how long you're going to fail for, but I can tell you if you're failing, it means you're on the right path because it has to happen. And the longer you try to avoid it, you'll just never
You will
get to your
never.
goal.
True,
I used to
true.
get mad because I said, if I just didn't make that mistake, if I just didn't hire that coach, I would have gotten here sooner. No, I wouldn't have because I wouldn't have learned what not to do. I would have not known that's the wrong path. That's the wrong thing. So I just try to encourage people from experience that always invest in yourself and keep moving forward no matter how bad it gets because once you get there, it just makes it worth it. It's the only way.
True.
It has to be.
Absolutely true. Absolutely. Tanner, you also have a very interesting statement, which is quite profound, which is perfection is the enemy of progress. You see, a lot of people are procrastinating. They're trying, just like, I will do it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I just want to make it better, perfect. But at the end of the day, they're not doing the thing, they're not getting the results out. Can you elaborate on this and how this statement actually helped you to succeed in your business?
For me, when it really clicked was, as I said prior, after that fifth coach, like just grinding and grinding and investing money into coaches and it not working. And then finally that spark went off and it worked. If I had been, if I had been concerned with being perfect, I probably wouldn't have even hired another coach because I actually, these coaches were doing 3 month programs and I would do 30 days and I'd hire a new coach. So I'd actually still be paying money
Ah,
to coach while I moved on to the second coach. And I just didn't care how I didn't care how I won. I just knew that I was broke. I was tired of being broke. I wanted something consistent. I wanted to know that whatever process I did would work long term. And so I wasn't concerned really about being perfect at all. That
mhm,
wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind. I said, I don't care if I have to lick a floor. I'll lick the floor if I think it helps. And I think what got me there was just so much pain and so much disappointment that I finally said I'd rather be homeless than unsuccessful. And that's when things changed for me. And I think a lot of people, they say those things, but they don't really mean it because they have a
mhm.
BMW and they have a nice place and they won't move back home and they won't sell the car. And I just tell people, I say it's a short-term sacrifice for long-term reward. And the stuff, the irony is once you become rich, at least for me, all the things that I thought would make me happy didn't do anything. And it was even more depressing because I worked so hard to get all these things. And then I realized those things don't make you happy. The goal is who you become. The goal is like by doing hard things, you're forged in fire and you become someone that you never could have been without difficult things. In fact, if you think about it, when you're about to die, if you wanted to meet the best version of yourself, would you choose an easy life or would you put him through the most
Absolutely.
difficult shit you could possibly think of? And
Absolutely.
all of us would go, oh, my twin, put him in the gym 6 hours a day, sales, have him like eat dirt, shitty apart. Like you'd want him to go through hard stuff. So at the end, he'd be this master creation. And I think a lot of times we complain about the very things that are going to make us who we're supposed to be. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's
True.
where it came from for me. That's what helped me.
100%. Tanner, your journey is very interesting. From a shy kid to a successful entrepreneur, you passed through all the spectrum. If you look back at this period and you would have one advice would you give to your younger self, what would it be?
It's so basic, but I've said this on every interview I get asked. My biggest regret is from 22 to 25, I didn't hire anyone to help me. And the reason was two reasons. One,
Yeah,
I thought I was so smart that I could figure it out on my own. That was number one. So it was ego. And then number two was that I felt I didn't have the money. So instead of becoming resourceful, I justified it by saying I can't afford it, so I can't pay for it.
I
And
love that.
sad, what's sad is from 22 to 25, I made $2,000 in my business. That's it. So we're talking $666 a year. I mean, it wasn't even put on my taxes. It was a joke.
True. Hmm.
And then from the time I hired a coach till now, I've done 100 million in sales in 6 years. And the first year I only did a million. So we made up a lot of ground. And I'm not saying that every person who hires a coach is going to do 100 million, but that was the catalyst for everything I needed to do. And so I regret not doing it sooner because what people don't think about is the money they're losing by not doing it. They just think, oh, if I don't spend it, I save 10 grand. Like, no, 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 no. If you don't spend the 10 grand, you're losing 100 grand. That's what they don't seem to understand. And the only way forward is through. You have to go through the hard shit, and being scared and fearful, or, well, I don't have the money, and this, whatever excuse you come up with doesn't change reality that you still have to do the work. So for me, if I could give someone advice, hire help sooner and be willing to go live with your parents or be willing to take a step back or be homeless if you have to, because I'm telling you, as long as you're alive, it will never be that bad. Like it's
True.
always worse in our heads than it actually is in reality.
True. Tanner, if I ask you, what was your favorite failure? Favorite one, a thing that you failed like hell, but learned like hell as well.
My favorite failure. I think the most pivotal failure I had was trying to get paid ads to work and failing those 5 times. Because during those 5 times, I had a choice come up where I said, I'm just gonna stay here, 50,000 a month. I don't know if I can stay there forever, but I'm comfortable. But this isn't working. I'm spending all my money. And so I'm really proud of the fact that, like, if I could look at my younger self, I would have told him I'm proud of him for not giving
Hmm.
up when most people would have. Because most people, if they spend 10K on one coach, they're done. They'll never hire another
Yeah.
coach.
Hmm.
And so I did it 5 times with zero return. And all the money I was making was getting poured into these coaches, which wasn't working for me. So I would have told that kid I'm really proud of him for not giving up and being smart enough to know that he didn't know what he needed to know. So he just kept trying. He didn't quit. He didn't blame the coach. He didn't, oh my gosh, because of him, I'm not successful. That kid kept going. And so that's probably one of my proudest moments because I didn't know at the time what was on the other side.
True.
That sketch where the guys are digging for treasure and they both get to the
Hmm.
end and one guy finds it and the other guy's walking back. That could have been me. And I never would have known.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people, when they get to the end of their lives, they're going to be that guy walking back that was this close to gold, but they didn't keep going. And that's why I am the way I am, because I always think now, I'm almost there. One more step. It's going to
And
be tomorrow.
push further, true.
That's the only way I know how to be.
And if I ask you then, what is your biggest accomplishment till now? Something that makes you proud.
I did a post yesterday because I got,
Mm.
the $100 million award from ClickFunnels, and my marketing
Yeah.
team wanted me to take some pictures. To be frank, the best moment I think I've ever had was when I made that first 10K. When
Hmm.
I got the ad to work and I made that 30 grandish in a couple days,
Yeah.
that felt better than the 100 million I just got because
True.
from what I had to go through to make that. And it's actually harder to make that initial money than bigger money because the stone is completely still. But as you start getting it moving, momentum will carry it. So it actually gets easier. I think that
Absolutely.
was my biggest accomplishment. I mean, to date, that was
Hmm.
one of the best feelings I think I'd ever had in my life.
I love that. These days, you see around us that everybody wants to become an entrepreneur. It's becoming trendy. Like if you look back 20, 30 years, being an entrepreneur is something that people laugh at. Now
Yeah.
everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. They think that it's shiny, like it's easy. First of all, do you think any person can be an entrepreneur, or it requires a particular character, set traits?
Yeah, I don't think anyone can be an entrepreneur. I think you have to be, there's got to be something inside of you that enjoys difficulty, that
Mm-hmm.
enjoys trials and tribulations. It's not easy. And the thing is, it never stops. Once you start that business, unless you shut it down, the business has to run. So while you're handling your personal life or other things, the business still runs. So, no, I don't think that because I've just seen the mindset of a lot of people. It's not strong enough. They're not willing to do what it takes to be successful. A lot of times what they'll say is I'm willing to come up to here, but
Mm-hmm.
this is what it actually takes. I don't set the rules. The rule is here and they're just not willing to do that. So no, I don't
Very
think
well
most.
said, buddy. Very well said. True. And what do you see that now for entrepreneurs? What are the key skills that they need to develop? Like, still the same as the sales, the communication, or from your perspective, what are the key skills?
Yeah, so I think the first is unrelenting work ethic. That you
Mhm.
just have to be someone who's willing to work until the work's done. Number two is I do believe sales because at the end of the day, you need to have a good product, but without sales, your business will die. You cannot have a business that doesn't make money. So between those two things, that's the biggest thing I see most people struggle with. Most people want to start a business who've done no sales training, no door to door, no communication classes. So they're starting from scratch and it's a struggle. Or B, they always think it's going to go better than it does. And we all do that because we're optimistic, but it never
True.
does what we hope. In fact, I go into stuff now knowing it will go wrong or something will go wrong. And I actually plan for that because when it
Ready for
happens,
it.
guys, yeah.
I want to ask an interesting question. What will be the one thing that you wish that people knew the realities of entrepreneurship before they jump in? What will be this? It's hell. What's more?
It's a very, I'd say it's a very thankless job, and at the highest levels you have to be willing to push your ego aside because the better your team is, the better the business is. And that's, I know that sounds cliche. I've heard that a million
Mhm.
times. When I hear it, I go, it can't be that simple, but your business is only as good as your team. And so what that means is you have to be willing to take the spotlight off you and put it on other people. It also means you have to be okay hiring people who may be better than you, which is hard on your ego because you're going, man, like, who am I to lead this person? They're smarter than me. They're more dedicated than me. I think it's those two things
True.
that most people they don't know.
And what's your take on work-life balance as an entrepreneur? Does it exist? It doesn't exist. 2 hours a day working.
Yeah, I think work life balance is whatever you want that to be. If you're someone who you want to work 8 hours a day, you want 2 hours with your kids, 2 hours with your wife, 2 hours at the gym, whatever, by all means do that. But I think it's good to know that someone else out there isn't doing that, which means they will beat you, which is
Mm-hmm.
okay if you're okay with it. But if you want to be the best, you have to understand the people who are the best are willing to give up usually more things than you are. So it's all dependent on what you want. If you want to be the best, work life balance for you is 12 to 14 hours of work
Exactly.
and 2 years of relaxing. If you want actual more family time, etc., 8 hours of work and 6 hours might be balanced for you. I think it's dependent on the goal. And then also just being okay with your decision. Because what a lot of people want is I'm only going to work 8 hours a day and I'm going to beat the guy doing 16 a day. And they'll say that, oh, this guy's more efficient, whatever. But ultimately, at the end of the day, all things equal, let's take all that stuff
The
out. If
hours matter.
he's doing twice as much work as you, he'll beat you. And so I
True.
just think that's good to know because part of what I think made me successful is not that I was the smartest. I just was willing to outwork people and do whatever I had to do. So, and to be frank, I'll end on this. External things don't make you happy. People, things, they can't make you happy. That comes from here. And so that's something I had to learn because as I got more time and more money, I started doing all these things thinking it would make me happy, thinking it would, oh, if I just travel more, if I do this, if I date more. And it's been a long road, but I've realized that it's all internal. So the things you do or decide to spend your time on, sure, there's things you might enjoy more than others, but I think it's a very bad way to live your life trying to focus on how happy something makes you feel. In fact, the way I've shifted my thinking is I'm focusing on what my goals are and then finding people who help support my goals. And that feels more fulfilling to me than just the next hedonistic activity I do, right? The next
Hmm.
restaurant, the next girl, the next vacation. I just think it's an endless cycle that doesn't go anywhere.
Correct. What's your typical day looks like? We're
Usually I'll
having
get
an
up like,
interview at 8 o'clock in the morning, so you wake up
yeah,
very early. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll usually go to bed at 8 or 9 if I can. That's perfect for me. I'll wake up
Yeah.
at 4 or 5 a.m., hit the gym, come back. And then throughout the day, it depends on the day, depending what the company needs, but it's a mix of meetings. It could be content, whatever. I'll usually do that till about 7 or 8 p.m. And then
Hmm.
once that's done, I'll go to bed. So I like to work. If I'm dating someone or whatnot, maybe I'll have, an hour or two set aside as well. So instead of working till 7, I'll work till 6.
Hmm.
But I like to work and I like to push myself. And so I could go into what type of work I do, but it just kind of depends on the day.
True, true. Tanner, you're on the Alpha Talks show. If I ask you, how do you define an alpha? What you'll tell me? What's an alpha for you?
I think to me, it's someone who's willing to do what's required, meaning whether that's in relationships, if that's in business, if that's in work. Something that I've been really having to learn is that when you have a lot of power, you can get a lot of things and you can abuse it very easily. There's a lot of things I
Hmm.
can do now because simply I'm rich and I have money. And so I think a true alpha is someone who has ultimate power but ultimate self-control,
True.
where you
I
can
love
do
that
anything
definition.
you want at any time, but you can control it. And you know that the reason you're controlling it is that's what's best for you, it's what's best for other people, etc. So that would be my definition of what alpha
I
is.
love that one. We have a section in the show. It's called the Alpha Quickfire. So I'll ask you a couple of quick questions, and you just shoot me the answers. Ready?
Yeah.
So who's the most influential mentor you had in your journey?
Alex Ramosi.
What's the most unusual habit in your daily routine that contributed to your success?
Getting up and just doing the work.
Perfect. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Meditate.
What's the best lesson that you learned from door-to-door sales?
Resiliency.
Whoosh. One book that has greatly influenced your journey.
Self-deception and leadership by the Arbinger Institute.
Outside of work, what are your hobbies?
Traveling, gym, dinners with friends.
What's in one word, your definition of success?
Being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want.
Phew. If you could teach children one lesson, what lesson would it be?
Everything good in life comes on the other side of hard work.
What is something that somebody has told you that has hurt you and you've never forgotten?
You're not going to be successful in business.
You kick them off. And in 3 words, describe yourself.
Hardworking, dedicated, empathetic.
Love that. What would be the last message you want to leave the audience with today?
Everything I think that makes an extraordinary life comes on the other side of hard work. And I think it's just being comfortable to make the decision to do the hard thing. And I don't think that's just in business. I think that's in relationships. It's in the gym. It's everywhere. And as I just turned 32. I'm still immature in a lot of ways, but as I'm growing and learning, I'm realizing more and more that self-control and discipline is usually the answer and not the other way around. A lot of people, they'll sell you on the idea that unlimited hedonism is the route to go. And I don't really subscribe to that. I don't agree with it. I think that the hard things in life are worth it. And so by definition, being in a committed marriage is harder. Having a
True.
business is harder. Handling a bad situation tactfully where, someone's upset and you can keep calm and collected is harder. That would be my message, is just don't be afraid of the hard work. It's going to make you into who you want to be. Because I think realistically, the reason people don't like themselves and they're unhappy is because when they get the opportunity to do the things that will turn them into the person they want to become, they don't do them, including myself. And when I actually feel my best, it's when I lean into the hard work and I can look at myself in the mirror and feel proud about the hard decision I made when I could have made a different decision, when no one was looking, when no one would have known. That's what it
I
is for
love
me.
that. Tanner, you also recently launched your podcast and you had the first episode talking about your story. It was
Yeah.
very inspiring one. What kind of objective do you have with this podcast and what you want? What's the name of the podcast so people start to follow you on it? What kind of objective you have with it?
Well, so it's called the Infinite Income Podcast. I wrote a book about that, so we just stuck with it.
Yeah.
The real reason behind it is I realize that I love intellectual conversations similar to one we're having. And one of the easiest ways I found to meet people is by having podcasts,
True.
whether you're a guest or you're hosting. So it's a long term play for me. I'm not expecting it to blow up. I'm not even expecting it to do well. And if it does, I'm willing to play the long game. But I really want to either A, share strategies and tactics that are quick. And I'm also going to have a mix of guests. And so far, there haven't been any guest episodes, but it'll be a mix of tactics and strategies people can use from stuff going on in my business. And
Mhm.
then high level interviews with people I find interesting because I think the one thing I hate about podcasts or I've seen is that I almost feel some people they're just always trying to have someone on versus trying to have
Mhm.
they find interesting and to each their own. But for me, when it's interesting, I just enjoy the conversation so much more because I actually have questions I want to know, and then other people can hear the answers. And I think that's the benefit for me.
Of course. Tanner, if people wants to connect with you, what is the easiest way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, shoot me a DM on Instagram at tanner.chidester. And if they want to see my website, eliteCEOs.com.
Perfect. Brother, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have this interview with you. A lot of knowledge bombs has been thrown in this 1 hour, and I'm sure a lot of people will really get in touch with you from the region here. And I'll be looking forward to see you in Dubai. Do you visit Dubai or not?
No, I need to visit. It's been on my bucket list and I haven't. I'm probably going to come this year. So if I'm there, I'll have to let you know.
It's a must. It's a must, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
That wraps another inspiring episode of today's show. I hope that this episode has ignited your inner alpha and left you feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to conquer any challenge that comes your way. Remember, alphas aren't born, they're made. It isn't about dominating others, it's about embracing your authenticity, leading with integrity, and making a positive impact on the world. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the Alpha Talks on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review and share the podcast with your fellow alphas. Also connect with us on social media at Saif Al Hakim. Share your thoughts, insight, and stories of personal and business growth with us. Let's create a movement of alphas supporting one another. The world needs more alphas like you exactly. Until next time, stay bold, stay driven, and stay alpha.